What up, YouTube? We are back. Yo, we missed Monday. Sorry about that.
What's
Things
up?
happened to Bobo on Monday. Things happened to me on Tuesday. But we're back for a Wednesday stream. We will try to kick you an extra stream on Friday to make up, to say sorry. But most importantly, we want to welcome you to an episode of
Who's the master?
We Got It This Time. We got it this time. Look at us. We all grossed up now. What up, Bobo? How you doing?
We're trying. I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Not bad, not bad, not bad. Just I'm shooting up some comments with Derpy in the Discord. I want to welcome everybody here, guys. We'll go ahead and send out another invite for that Discord in a little bit, but we'll try to get that up and kicking. We always love discussing things with the fans. After all, we are a fan channel ourselves. And I hope everybody had a good weekend. I hope everybody enjoyed some good content this weekend. And I'm ready to talk about some news. What about you, Bobo?
Yeah, man. Let's get this rolling, dude. We hadn't talked in a few days, and there's not crazy things coming out, but there is stuff to talk about for sure. Trailers, a couple of people talking some trash, a couple of people begging for some things back. We got a little income statements.
Nice. Well, you know what? I guess there's only one way to kick off the show because we want to do a watch along for the show, and I think we'll try to get one scheduled for later, maybe for episode 2. Because I definitely want to talk about episode 2 because I loved episode 1. And I want to discuss it with you, all of you, and especially you, Bobo. Let's talk about The Last of Us, based off the popular game that I did not play, that Bobo played because I was too broke to afford a PlayStation. I bought an Xbox.
I've stayed broke because I kept buying these things like this in my life. I'd have more money if I didn't spend it all on toys.
Yo, to take a little detour in our conversation, because, hey, this is a podcast. We can take detours. It's what we do on podcasts, right?
Always.
I've fallen in, YouTube wormholes. It's the most dangerous trap of them all. I don't care about no quicksand. YouTube wormholes are deadlier, okay?
For sure.
Nothing will kill the time like a YouTube wormhole. But watching some old video game historical stuff. Game Historian's a great channel. Just a bunch of stuff on video games, video game wars. And so how appropriate for us to start out this stream, since I've fallen a wormhole, talking about probably, and this is not even a competition, the greatest adaptation of a video game ever, and it's only one episode in. But I think we can safely say that, right? I mean, what else is in the running?
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that even is just screaming at me. I'm sure that there's been a couple out there that have done a good job.
Yo, the first Mortal Kombat movie, fire.
Well, it was fun. It gave us exactly what everybody was wanting, except everybody wanted it to be R. But other than that, no, it felt like Mortal Kombat. But as far as like making something that is like a AAA quality piece of cinema, and look, I don't know how do people want to regard things on HBO Max and things like that because they're not at the quote unquote cinema. They're not in the theater, but it's HBO Max or HBO has been doing cinematic quality material for decades now. And this movie is this show is just as good a quality as any movie that'll be out in the theater. And so that's why I'll call it cinema quality. And I think for video game to transition to any sort of movie or TV show, this has been the best cinematic quality of anything yet.
Well, I will say this. I just thought of one video game adaptation that, as of now, I may put up above The Last of Us, but I could see The Last of Us quickly surpassing it. Now, do you remember back on YouTube when a independent filmmaker named Avi Arad, I believe it's not Avi Arad, I can't think of his name. Avi Arad is obviously the Spider-Man guy. But he did a darker adaptation of Power Rangers.
I do remember that. It was a web thing.
Yeah.
So it was violent.
He teamed up with Warren Ellis to do Castlevania animated series. I know you're not into animation, which is unfortunate, but but that video game adaptation is fire because it's told with that very Warren Ellis type storytelling pace. Where it starts out slow, it builds to a very explosive ending, and when Warren Ellis nails the ending, it pays off. Now, when he doesn't nail the ending, obviously, you feel like you read a bunch of issues for nothing. But this show was done very well. He's probably not going to ever do it again because now he's in Me Too jail for probably perpetuity.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's real.
That's the only other good video game adaptation I can think of. That's phenomenal. Outside that, with Max Payne,
no, that was terrible.
Yeah,
that was terrible. No, Tomb Raider, it felt like a ride. I felt like I was paying money to, fasten your seatbelt and let's go on the Tomb Raider ride.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that movie was more about Angelina Jolie star power.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I own it. I mean, it's fun to watch. The second one's not, but the first one's a lot of fun. I mean, it really is. And Daniel Craig's the villain and stuff like that, But I think just quality wise, like I could see this one actually, if it keeps on the pace that this first episode was, because they're not just using the gimmick of the outbreak, and they're not just using the gimmick of, oh, let's turn the successful game into a show. It actually is great acting, great character development at the beginning. And that's hard to do, man, to get people attached to these characters and not feel like that they're acting and putting on a show so they can get you attached to their situation. You just were set into Joel and Nico's situation. Okay, here's this single dad, here's this daughter. They obviously have this kind of more of an adult father-daughter relationship. It's quirky, but it's not like lovey-dovey, but it is. But they just pulled it off in a very good way to where it was just really well done. And then the whole show's that way. So I feel like that it could get some awards if it keeps up this pace.
Yeah, it's funny because culturally you'll see a lot of differences between parental relationships. Like I've got a lot of white friends that they'll curse in front of their mom. Mm-hmm. You ain't doing that in a brown household. You're very, very respectful of your parents in a brown household. Now that I'm a little bit older, I can get on my parents a little bit. I can yell, whatever. But there's certain lines I do not cross with my parents, right? But I see my white friends will straight up be like, and most of the time they're playing around, but they'll be like, fuck off, mom. I'm like, dude, what did you just say to your mom?
But it also was it also is how they were raised, because I could never and would never have said that to my parents growing up, because I was raised in that Southern hospitality, respect your elders type manner. That's yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and yes, sir. And you know what I mean? That's how I was raised. Please and thank you. But if you're raised in a situation where your parents are just pounding back beers all day long and they're cursing at you, and all of a sudden it just sort of seeps their way into your kids' lives, and next thing you know, that's how you talk to each other. Well, that's what you get. You didn't teach kids.
And listen, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I don't know nothing about raising no kids. There's a reason I don't have any that I claim. That I know of. Yeah.
Me either.
Yeah. But you definitely and the way they joke around with their parents, like they'll tell jokes like they're telling jokes with me, and I'm like, it's weird to me, right? And that seems to be the type of relationship that they have. But they don't overdo it. I mean, it doesn't take away from anything. It's just you kind of notice like they've got that bond, that peculiar closeness, right? What do you think about the pacing at the beginning of the episode? Because here's the thing, I'm all zombied out. That was my hesitance to watch this show. Now, once again, I never played the game. Okay. But I definitely, the slower pace, by the end of it, I appreciate the slower pace at the beginning. But at the beginning, I was kind of trying to fight the boredom.
Really?
Right. Now, once again, looking back on it in retrospect, I appreciate that it paced that way. But at the time, I was ready to be bored because, once again, I'm so tired of zombies, So for me, in the back of my mind, the payoff wasn't going to be that great because it was going to be.
You went into it with a little bit of a preconceived.
Yeah. What about you?
No, I honestly liked that, but see, for me, I've always been that person that I'm okay with a movie that's supposed to be a horror movie that doesn't really blast off until about halfway through, or even even until the third act, but then it goes crazy for the rest of the movie. I'm the kind of guy that's, even at a younger age, I could like that. And I like the character development. I like to be now, don't get me wrong. Don't tell me I'm going to go see a Batman movie and hardly have any Batman in it. That's not what I'm saying.
Or a dumb Batman.
Right.
Which is what we got this last time.
Right. Yeah. Or 7 exactly. I just like getting to know people a little bit more. So for me, I felt it kind of worked, and they didn't take too long with it either. If they would have gone on any longer with it, maybe I would have been like, all right, come on, let's pick this up. But for me, I think it was pretty well done. But I also was sort of waiting for that moment of everything to crash, and for spoiler alert, and for Nico to die, because I knew that's a pivotal part of why you are who you are in the game. So I was just waiting for all that to snap. So for me, it was almost like, all right, okay. Oh, they're really getting you to get to love these people now. And, they're having their nice little birthday exchange, and they're falling asleep on the couch. Oh, he's got to go pick up the brother. I was like, oh, here it's about, you know what I mean? So I had that feeling.
Now, that's not how the show opened, though, right? The show opened different from the game. It opened with a discussion on viruses. which I thought was kind of interesting because historically, if it's set in 1968, that's only like 50 years after the influenza outbreak. So maybe it's long enough to where people would be desensitized and not think about viruses, but some of the people in that audience would have hypothetically lived through that virus, right? So, that kind of threw me off a little bit, but overall, I thought the scene worked really well. I did read something, and let me read this. It was originally going to be a different opening. I pitched the cold open twice. The first time I pitched it to Neil Druckmann, co-showrunner, he was like, or we can do the video. It was like Planet Earth. You can watch this beautiful demonstration of how cordyceps work, how it takes over an ant. It tells you everything you need to know. What we decided to do was make our own video like that. It was a little boring to watch, though. It was a little bit like we're in social studies class. I had written this thing early as if I had found a transcript of an old Dick Cavett from 1969. I remember showing it to Neil, and he was like, this is a little weird. We were 3 or 4 weeks away from wrapping, and I was not thrilled with this opening. So I sent the idea to Neil again, and this time he was like, oh, okay, that's a little weirdly worded, but that's from the co-creator, and that's from Collider, who reported that and who I pulled that.
Well, I like it because I think what it really did was kind of, in a world where we've had so many zombie movies and we just had 11 years of Walking Dead with a side 5 to 6 years of Fear the Walking Dead. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We're very used to that genre. I liked them taking the sort of the approach that they kind of did with Annihilation, the movie Annihilation, but except Annihilation was more about like plant life and human life, like botany and and human biology being able to hybrid and blend. This was that whole like fungi and human or mammals being able to blend, or you know what I mean?
New Rockstars, I watched a breakdown. There's another movie I wish I had written down what the movie was, that did the same opening. But it was effective, and plus you got Batiaris in there. So
the same opening in the sense that they like people are like talking about something in the past on a talk show.
But it wasn't a talk show in the past. It was a current talk show. And I'll look at it later and maybe we'll run by. It's not important though. It's not groundbreaking, but I think it worked very well. Like I said, I love that actor that plays the epidemiologist that's talking about the fungi. I don't remember the actor's name, but he's been in so much stuff. Most memorable to me, Batiaris from Spartacus. So he's great.
But I guess what I was saying is I like the idea of them separating it and making you be like, it's not actually zombies like that you think of. This is actually a fungus. And what's cool is when you see them, it's almost like there's this fungus that's this living fungus moving and coming out of their mouths. You know what I mean?
And let's also be very real. In current society, having lived through the pandemic, whether you believe it was an act of nature or an act of Wuhan scientists, whatever you believe, right? We just lived through this pandemic. And so we're going to watch that with that pandemic in our mind, with those fresh memories of us going through, a lockdown and everything in our mind. So it makes it much more effective, I think.
I wonder if this show was greenlit before the pandemic.
I wonder if it was too. I mean, the game definitely came out before the pandemic, right?
Oh yeah. I think part 2 would come out before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Did this show spur any QAnon theories, though? That's what I want to know. I want to dive into that Reddit and just see if there's like, if people think the show theorized the show was run by, people who sacrifice babies, or some sort of code for them working on some sort of future virus to take over and kill all the Republicans or something like that. I don't know.
It's so funny, man. My brain just does not even go there whatsoever. So it's just funny to hear you say that. Like, what?
I mean, I don't know if it actually will. I just have fun thinking about that. And you know what? I don't put anything past tribalism these days, right? So from both ends of the spectrum. Did you watch the featurette after the show? I think we can get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, I did. Just them talking about how they made this episode and what it was inspiring them, and like the scene of her dying and all that.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll get into some of that stuff in a little bit, but the opening was pretty effective. So we get, we get that opening between the epidemiologists and their discussion, and then we also get to know a little bit about Joel and Nico, and we get a touching moment where it's Joel's birthday and she steals some money from him, but we find out it's to fix an old watch for $20. Good luck finding that these days. Good luck getting that Apple. Thank God that was an Apple Watch. Because she would have gone to the Apple store and they would have been like, yeah, we could fix this for $20, but we're just gonna
Or
sell
we
you a
could
whole
just
new
sell you a
Apple
new
Watch.
one. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yes.
what you do there.
Steve Jobs is rolling over his grave in that watchmaker. What are you doing, fam? You know?
Yeah, it is, side note, it is a fun game to think about what Steve Jobs would be thinking about. the placement of Apple in this world now and what it's doing.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, so then we cut back to her going to the old neighbor's house to because she's guilted into spending some time with this old disabled neighbor. And that's when we get our first hint of we get a little shot in the background of the lady in a wheelchair, and she's kind of gasping for breath. And in the featurette, they pointed out that was the spores invading her, right?
Yes, and I see from when I was watching it, I knew something was going on, and I knew that was sort of like a transitional moment, but I didn't know that was like her creating the opening for the spores to invade her. However, I'm curious to see how they're going to go with this because they did sort of nod to the idea that it's only really affecting a lot of people mostly in the city. And they said something about the fact that she had been going back and forth into the city.
Mm-hmm.
Was the spores just on her clothes because of that? You know what I'm saying? Or like,
yeah, because they've also said in the show that the reason they changed the way that the spores invade people, right? Because in the game, correct me if I'm wrong, it's airborne, but now it has do the attachments on these zombies that invade people. But then she apparently gets infected through spores. So I don't understand what's going on with it. Maybe it'll clear it up later. Right now, it's a little confusing though.
Right? Yeah, that's what I was saying as well. But overall, I mean, I knew that old lady was going to be doing something. I knew I was like, oh, that's going to be an evil old lady at some point. But the way that it all went down, I thought was pretty creepy. The way she just looked up and they were both in the kitchen, and it was tense, man. When Nico is walking around and all that's, for me, post-apocalyptic things are pretty scary to think about happening because it's like, it's not just a killer's chasing you. It's not that, oh my God, there's a group of people after me. It's that the world is falling apart, and like, so all these things blowing up, all these planes, all these different cool things. And then her having to go through that horror movie scenario in the house, which I would have never gone in by myself. But I do think that all that just was very well done.
What up, Derpy? Yeah, listen, a couple of things to note here. So when the first time we figure out things are going wrong, popping off, she goes to the watchmaker to fix the watch, and then the watchmaker's wife kicks her out, and she's all panicked, closes the store down early, right? So first of all, fuck you, lady, for not letting this little girl know what's going on in the world, if you clearly know.
She just told her she needs to get home.
Yeah. Where's the context, lady? It's a little kid.
You should have told her. And you should have said something to your husband, too, right there. He seems to be the one that takes initiative in the family and actually has a head on his shoulders, but no.
Oh, damn.
The watchmaker.
Yeah. So screw you, lady. I hope you died. Secondly, it's funny to think how I'm glad they said this in 2003. Even 2013, Twitter wasn't as big a deal, right? But in 2003, if things are going on in the world, it's going to be a little bit harder for you to find out. We did have internet, obviously. We did have high-speed internet, I think, by that time.
But people weren't like glued to it like we are now.
Yeah. Now, shit starts popping off around the globe. You get on Twitter, you're finding out. It's trending, right?
You're getting notifications before sometimes the people involved know because it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was in the middle of TJ Maxx and this girl next to me was just like, oh my God, Kobe Bryant died. And I looked at her, what? She goes, and she's like, yeah. And she was looking at her phone. And sure enough, I looked at my phone and then all of a sudden notifications. Dude,
when the coronavirus first exploded in Wuhan, China, either because somebody ate a bat or because it was created by a lab. Once again, believe whatever you want to believe.
Right.
I remember hearing about it. Now, we didn't take it super seriously until it was too late, right? But I remember hearing about it, I remember my manager walking up to me.
It's not going to come over here.
Yeah.
That's what everybody was saying.
Derpy, this show is more intense than the game, especially to the average viewer that knows nothing about the story. It was pretty intense, Derpy. I don't know anything about the story. So, yeah, it was pretty intense. Especially,
Derpy, are you saying you don't know anything about didn't play the game?
No, I don't have a PlayStation, man. I have an Xbox. And it wasn't on Xbox.
No. I said Derpy. Are you saying you didn't play the game?
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Let's know, Derpy.
Yeah, so when the girl leaves the older couple's house, does she? Yeah, that's when shit starts. Oh no, her dad comes home.
Yeah, Joel and
They,
Tommy pull up.
yeah, and then Tommy doesn't pull up. Remember, Tommy's at a bar. He's about to get arrested.
No. Tommy and him are there right there. He had just gotten Tommy. He had just put him and Tommy are in the truck together. That's why he left. He left the house to go pick up Tommy. But when he pulls back, him and Tommy are in the truck, and then they're driving off together. Remember, they get split and separated when the two trucks are on fire, and then Tommy comes back in there and shoots that one.
No, this is before that all pops off. Because remember, they're at her house. They come back, and she borrows that video, that old DVD.
Yeah, but we're talking about I thought you were talking about when she's going and they get attacked. The girl?
No, this is right before that. Remember, she goes and she visits the old lady. That's when she's about to get infected, and then she borrows that DVD. She heads back to her house, and then Joel comes over.
I thought you were talking about the other part.
Yeah,
My fault.
It's all good. It's all good. So Joel comes over. They watch that DVD. She falls asleep. He carries her upstairs like a good dad. This is such a good dad, this guy, you know? Let's be honest. Most dads would be pissed off, be like, fuck, my little brother. They just leave him on the couch, throw a blanket over them maybe, and then go do the thing. But this dad's actually got to carry his daughter up. That just proves how much he loves her. Maybe he's a little bit weird too. Maybe he loves her a little too much. But that's when he goes to pick up Tom. Huh?
She's all he's got, and he's already let her down. Forgot the cake. You know?
Yeah, I mean, come on. There have been dads that have done a lot worse than forgetting their own birthday cake for my own birthday.
Yeah, but they were painting the picture clearly that like she didn't have the most eventful life, and it meant something to her.
Nah, she was definitely a sweet kid, right?
Yeah.
So when she wakes up to explosions, to sirens. That's when she walks outside. She gets attacked, and that's when all the shit starts popping off. That's when we get the big scene where we know things are going very, very wrong. She walks into that empty house, like you said, and all the black people in the movie theater start standing up and screaming at the theater, screaming at that section at that moment, or their TV screen at their moment, telling her not to go in, but she does it anyway, like she'd never watched a horror movie in her entire life, and she almost gets killed by the spore zombie, who was that old lady who's now munching on her family and turning them, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? So you're a horror filmmaker, okay? So give us your thoughts on how that scene was directed and shot.
Oh, I thought it was done great, man. That's what I was saying earlier about like everything was blowing up, and you know, that's post-apocalyptic stuff is scary because I mean, just what I said earlier. She's by herself, she doesn't have her dad, and all these things are blowing up, and it's not like she can kind of turn to anyone because now it seems like the world's falling apart. So yeah, then all of a sudden she has to go to this house. Like I said, I wouldn't have gone in there, but
yeah, we would have.
No. But I think that if there's an empty house like that and the world's falling apart, and the dog had already come scratching at my door from them and didn't want to go back into its own house, yeah, I ain't going in that house. Sorry. I've seen.
I will say this though. It's easy to say that knowing that we're watching somebody who's in a zombie movie. The last thing I would expect in real life, if my neighbor's dog came scratching at my door, was that they got turned into zombies.
No, but if the rest of the world is blowing up and there's a ton of airplanes flying low across me and transformers are blowing up and you hear sirens everywhere and people are screaming in the background, obviously something's up. I'd at least go in there with something to protect myself. But I do think it was tense. I do love her walking in there. And then when she sees the old man and then he kind of looks to the left and then you see that old lady chawing down, noshing on her daughter, I guess is what it was.
She'd slurp it on them like she's some faux noodles.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was. Well, at first I didn't realize they were going to have them little like fungus tentacle things coming out of the mouth. Right. So she was actually like, I did think that I was like, oh, look at her. Is that veins and tendons she's pulling up and some fun?
That's new. Apparently that's not in the game, right?
I don't remember that being in the game. I just remember them being massively mutated.
Yeah. Now, what I do think is funny, and Derpy, I do see your comment about the scene. We're about to talk about that scene. So yeah, she runs out of the house, and the old lady's running after her, and then eventually the old lady gets shot because her dad and Tommy happen to pull up right at the right time, right? And I love that scene where she's crying because the old lady just got shot. It's like, bitch, that lady was trying to eat you.
No, she didn't get shot. Joel smacked her with that big old wrench in the face.
Oh, she did. She gets shot first, right? But then she doesn't stop. She gets back up. and then Joel smacks her.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess so. I don't remember her getting shot. I just remember her coming out of the house and I thought that maybe he did shoot. I thought that she just fell, but maybe he shot her.
Yeah, because I remember being confused with that scene too, because you don't hear a gunshot, you see her fall, but then she turns around, you see out of focus Joel and Tommy, and then goes into focus and Tommy is holding a gun.
I got you.
Yeah.
And then the same thing kind of happens later. But yeah.
Yeah.
No, but when he definitely smacks with that wrench, you're right. She's like, ah! It's like,
Derby says she tripped, so maybe she didn't get shot.
Well, he was just like clear. That's the thing I liked about Joel or Pedro Pascal. He was to the point with everything. So he was just like, look, it's not just the so-and-sos, it's everybody. Okay, look, we got to go. And then when they get in the car, she's like, Dad, she's about to ask him, and he just turns around and he's like, we don't know. I just love it. He's to the point. I love that about him.
And Derby says doesn't now say that maybe she shot. So yeah, here's what's confusing though, because he tells the neighbor, go inside and lock your doors. But then he jumps in his truck with Tommy and his daughter and drives off.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think they're just panicking, because when he's in the car and that the scene, the one-shot scene.
Yeah.
He's like, move, we gotta go, man. We gotta go. He's like, I'm trying, Joel. And then he's like, back, all right, back up. And he's like, move. He just kept telling him to
For
go.
reals. Now, do you have a sibling, Bobo?
No, I didn't grow up with any siblings. I have a stepbrother now, but I didn't get him until I was like well into my 20s.
And somebody who has a sibling who is also a very what's the word I'm looking for without making it sound too negative? He definitely voices his opinion. He's an opinionated sibling, right? And I raised him to be that way, like I push him to be that way. But I can definitely see that situation to where he's like, we're in the car and he's backseat driving essentially, or front seat driving, and me just eventually at the point where I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. Now, don't get me wrong, man. I have family members that I'm like that with. I have a couple of cousins that might as well. We didn't live under the same roof, but we were together all the time, especially during the summers. You know what I mean? So
Right.
like, I have plenty of like, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Because that's all I'm thinking. Like, I'm like, dude, Tommy, you are a saint, bro. Because right now I'd be like, would you stop?
Yes,
For the love of God.
He was like, I'm trying, Joel. I'm trying.
He was so patient with his bro, man.
He was, man. Good old Gabriel Luna.
Yeah, Ghost Rider, That'd been awesome if he turned to Ghost Rider in that scene. That
Derby said, he's like, I love seeing Sarah turn around looking back after they hit the infected running at them. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a little parallel they play between her and a character we're about to discuss that we get introduced to at the end.
He said also the way they run into the car was exactly like the game. Yeah. And that's what I was telling Anshul earlier. What I liked about this is they didn't try to take gimmicks from the game that are game things and put them into this show. They took the cinematic qualities from the game and put them into the show. So
including the one shot. Now, Bobo and I talked about this. To me, second best one shot, one take that I've seen on HBO and maybe ever. I don't want to say ever because I know sometimes the movies you've got some great one takes that I'm not thinking of, right? But I'll definitely say
there's plenty of them out there. But as far as shows are concerned,
yeah. For number one, obviously being True Detective. For those of you that have seen it, that's
gold.
Still my season the best one take.
Season 1.
Number 3 on the list would be Daredevil's one take fight hall fight scene. Season 1.
Yeah. Well, I guess I never thought about that being a one take, but it is, isn't it?
Yeah, but the reason you don't think about it is because like they take breaks in the action where you see them all dive into a room and you don't go in the room, and then eventually after being in the room for 30 seconds they spill back in the hall. So that's why I don't count it with the other two. I understand why you have to do that because that's definitely the most physically demanding of all the one takes we're talking about. Those are actual actors choreographing a very tiring fight scene. And those are probably meant to give them a little break where you don't need that in the True Detective or the
True Detective and Last of Us was it's like, all right, everybody in their right place. Everybody in their right place.
Yeah, get all the practical effects ready, the explosions ready, right? We're gonna have that pop up. Get all the sound effects ready, right?
Very impressive, dude. Yeah. Very impressive.
1917 is a one take.
Well, yeah, that whole movie's a one take, but it's not really. Like it is a one take, but it's also you can see where there's a cut like they'll be moving and they'll have like a pole or a building move into the foreground of the camera real quick, and you can see you can even hear Sam Mendes talk about we had to use that opportunity to put in another take. Now it's designed to look like it's the same cut right there in the same take, but they did have to actually make some cuts here.
I think this one though, because this period in the car lasts for a good period of time. I think these are actually a couple of different one takes, right?
Well, I think that I'd have to watch it again. I've only watched it once. I'd have to watch it again to read. That's what's good about those one takes is you're in the middle of it so much. It's definitely designed to feel like a consecutive moment of time that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's actually, I can't remember if there's a shot that looks from one perspective and then moves from another perspective, but still all in that same consecutive time. You know what I mean? Like I can't remember that at all, but sometimes what you do with cutting is so you can fast forward time a little bit, like when you're cutting takes. Because in real time, someone running across a football field to meet someone in the middle of the football field, that kind of takes some time. But when you cut it in a movie, you start them at the end zone, and then all of a sudden they're at the 50-yard line. You know what I mean? So little things like that, you have to sort of tighten it up. That's why I'm wondering if it was actually a one take. But I do think that it was. 1917 was a one take film. Like it's designed to look like it never stops. You know?
Yeah. By the way, a couple of notes about this one take. So I lived in Austin for a couple of years from 05 to 07. It's grown exponentially since I lived there. So first of all, I was trying to recognize certain areas of Austin, which I did, and nothing really of note. But I will say them being stuck in traffic is the most realistic thing about this episode so far. Because if you live in Austin, traffic is insane. And it doesn't need to be zombie apocalypse, right, for there to be traffic in Austin. You're going to get stuck in traffic no matter what. It's almost like living in LA. It's ridiculous.
Houston, same thing.
Yeah, it just made me laugh when I saw them stuck in traffic. I was like, yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah. I didn't get to cut across highways because I didn't have an off-roading vehicle, which would have been nice and handy. Except in their case, it wasn't because they run into an army. Then they run into an area of town, which this was clearly, at least not that I remember, an actual area of town in Austin. I'm pretty sure this was a set that they built. But that's when you see the majority of the chaos happening. People riding in the streets, massive explosions happening in the middle of nowhere, like any good riot in a movie, you know? And it's all shot from a perspective of a car. And then we had noticed an airplane kind of wobbling, like it was doing the wobble, you know, that dance in the background of one of the parts of the long tape.
And there was a bunch of them flying low.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was the same one or a bunch of them, but one of them eventually hits. We see explosion. And that's when a tire hits a truck, and that's the end of that one take, right?
Yeah, it goes black for a second.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All this leads us to our first major surprise for those of you that didn't play the game. Also, which Bobo did to answer your question, Derpy. And that is the death of a character, right? Now, I'm interested. So I didn't play the game. But I know enough about the game to know that Nico is not the main character, and that this is about a father-daughter relationship. And since she's not the main character and she's not a big part of the game, I kind of had a good feeling that she was about to get got. And she gets got by a member of the military, right?
Yeah, some rando military person, and then he, I think you realize that she's shot because she screams. At least I knew that was when it was going down, but you also know that from the game.
Yeah, and it's done in this way where he, finds them. They're running, because the car's been wrecked and they're just trying to run. I don't know why they separate from their brother, but they do. So, whatever. He's the one that's got a gun, but for some reason we need to go our different ways. That's obviously something that's ripped directly from the game, I'm assuming. Because that's a video game thing that you would only do there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a long ass time since.
Let me guess. In the video game, there's a DLC side quest where you get to play the brother during that period of time.
I don't remember there being any DLC for Last of Us, honestly.
I think there is. I know for a fact there's one.
Well, I know they made a part 2. If there was, I didn't play the DLC for the last.
I only know that because I watched a new Rockstar's video.
Gotcha.
They talked about the DLC. So anyway, they run into a military personnel. He's threatening to shoot at them, but they say, "Hey, listen, we're not infected." So he calls it in, and then the supervisor, although you don't hear what a supervisor says, clearly says, "Hey, no chances, 86 them." And Joel could tell. Like Joel ain't no newbie. In fact, it's hinted in that either him and his brother, or maybe both of them, are veterans, right? We see a bumper sticker.
Yeah,
on
you
his
see it
truck.
on there, and you can kind of get it in their behavior. You know, they're workhorses. They're sort of addicted to their work. You know, maybe
Yeah.
PTSD a little bit.
So he tries to dodge out of the way, and he does, and eventually rolls down the hill. And then the military guy gets shot by his brother, who comes in at the last moment to save Joel. And you might be thinking save Nico as well, but no, she caught astray. And we cut away to see the brother's face, and we cut back to see her dead. This is very important, right? We find out later that they're very much withholding on the violence for a reason, but you don't actually see her die in the moment. You know, we cut back and we see her die. And then that's the end of that scene. We go 20 years later in the future.
Yeah, good acting from her and Pedro in that moment. Both of them extremely convincing, very sad. Pedro's a bamf, but her short time on the screen, she was very convincing and did a really good job.
There is a DLC called Left Behind. It's a prequel with Elle.
There you go.
The whole DLC supposedly will be an entire flashback episode with the moments of the present. Also, Derpy Bro, I'm very interested for the winter scenes, especially the character David. You know, if you played the game, your friend doesn't know Sarah is just the tip of the iceberg. Okay, well, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
But we got to do this stuff because we got other stuff we're going to try to talk about.
Yeah. So let's fly through. We get to our scene 20 years in the future. We're in a militaristic type of environment where the military is pretty much taken over in Boston. That's where we find our main character, Joel. And there's a resistance mounting, and that's when he gets to meet Elle, and they start off on their journey together. We find out Ellie. Sorry, I call her Elle. We find out Ellie is possibly immune to the infestation, and a bunch of stuff happens that kind of gets them together. We don't want to probably harp on it too much. If you haven't watched the episode, we'll just see if we want to hit some high points on there. Bobo, anything in particular stick out to you about the flash forward into, I guess, what would be now present time, because it's 20 years later after 2003 to 2023
and a dystopia in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, I did some cool stuff. I think if I'm correct, the girl that is Marlene is the girl that was Marlene in the game.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Okay.
But she's she's the leader, and obviously the history with her and Joel and all that stuff. And I thought that she did an all right job. This is the part of the show that I'm not super excited to dwell into, because I'm just tired of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So like, I don't want us to, now don't get me wrong, this is already like a functioning city. You know what I mean? Like, there's wages and all, and
Mm-hmm.
The Walking Dead approached and it was getting that way, but there is a difference. But I'm pretty sure they're not going to dwell on that much, because the game is not about that. I mean, there's a part where they get into the snow, and because they're traveling, they're taking her somewhere. That's what the game, that's what the show is going to be about. You know what I mean? So, I mean, all that stuff was fine. I do think they had to put it there to kind of explain it, who she was, who Ellie was, why she was tied up, all that, situation, introduce the knife, all that stuff, Chekhov's gun, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Well, a couple of things to note. I do like how they set up and made the future look super bleak, and that's why you needed that setup in Boston, right? Because it's not a happy utopia. It's under a tight military rule. That's why you have a resistance, and people, you can just see the actors did a great job of portraying the fact that everybody in that environment looks like they're basically zombies, right? They're not infected, but mentally they're zombies. They have no hope. Hope is lost.
Well,
Pandora's box has been opened. That
their heart
flew out.
Yeah, yep. They're not happy anymore. They don't have anything to look forward to. There's no new movies coming out this Friday.
Yeah, exactly. No streams being done, right? Yeah. Although for them, in their little reality, they never got that stuff anyway. YouTube didn't pop off in 2003, so y'all don't know what you're missing.
Yeah. But I tell you what, they did shine a light on everybody drinks.
Oh yeah, heavily,
and does pills,
smokes, and does lots of drugs. Drugs are here to stay, folks. Apparently, even dystopia can't stop drugs.
I think that's when they thrive. That's when all the synthetics come in.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, I'm interested to see where the show goes, because at the end they end up leaving the city, take Ellie somewhere. Where do we know where they're going to take her? By the way,
Yeah, well, they're the actual destination.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's to another camp basically. But they as far as they have to go through some harsh conditions. Like I said, they get all up in the snow, and
Yeah, I'm assuming they can't just jump on first class.
then,
Yeah,
but I mean, but that's where the meat and potatoes of the show really come into play. I mean, that's because it that was what people liked about the game is that it was part survival, it was part outbreak zombie-ish game, but it was also part father daughter-ish, even though it's not his real daughter. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
there's just a lot of levels to the game that really worked, and I think that's why this is going to work because the outbreak and the infestation is just sort of part of it.
Well, let's touch on that last part you said about the father-daughter relationship. So we do see at the end, right? They withhold violence. I tease that, and then we see at the end where they're held at gunpoint by a guard that Joel actually knows sells drugs to, and
Mhm.
uh, the guard goes to test them for a virus outbreak. As he's trying to basically, you know, uh, blackmail them to get better drug deals. Right? That's all he really cares about. He's trying to turn them in, but only so he can get a cut of the money. And then as he goes to check Ellie if she's infected, she immediately turns around and stabs him. And you can tell right then she doesn't want to be tested, right? And then we find out later that there's a reason because we see that it's red, meaning that she is positive, and she tells him, no, listen, I've been bitten, but obviously I haven't turned. I got bit a long time ago. So that's when they drop the hint about her being immune. Now, before we get to that point, Pedro Pascal's character, Joel, beats the living hell and probably kills that guard. Now, Ellie's reaction, unlike his real daughter, Nico, who, when he killed the zombie grandma, she was crying, right? Ellie is, in the words of the director, activated. You can tell she likes the fact that this guy took that dude's life.
Oh,
Right?
she's got a smirk on her face, and
Yeah.
she's like doing this like lean creep to the side, look around deal. That
She's like, yeah,
Derby,
I'm
you know
talking
that
about.
shot from the game. You
Yeah.
know that shot.
So now the actress that plays Ellie plays who? Babo?
Ashley, what is
Yeah, but
it?
who's she play? In
Who
another
plays
show?
Ellie?
Yeah. What's the character that we talked about?
Oh, I can't remember her name, but
Liana Mormont.
Yeah, I can't ever remember people's names of any of these shows.
Yeah, so the little bear. So anybody that watched Game of Thrones probably loved Liana Mormont, and she's probably one of the only good parts of season 8, right? And season 7. She's one of the good parts of season 7. Season 7 was also, in retrospect, not that great. But yeah, that's who plays Ellie. So the actress does a fantastic job. We were shocked to find out that she was 19.
Well, once we were talking about her being in Game of Thrones, I was like, that's why I was like, how old is she? She's got to be older than she looks. And sure enough.
Yeah, she does not look 19. She looks 14, right? How old is Ellie supposed to be in the game?
I mean, I think that I don't even know if they ever say her name, but I mean, I assume teenager. I assume like 16, 17. That's Clinto. That's my boy Clint. What up now? Yeah, I mean, I would assume 16,
Mm-hmm.
that right at that, like that adolescent going through the changes in life. So it just makes it that much harder for her to have to deal with what's happening in the world.
Right. Well, what they harped on in the featurette, if you watch it, is the director, and I'm assuming that people that know the game are aware of this, but for those of you who don't know, yeah, this story is definitely about love, but it's not about love being something that overcomes all for the better. The message this game and this show definitely bring is that love can also have a very negative aspect to it. Love, if viewed through the wrong lens, can be used to fuel hatred and not just, understanding it.
Like bashing in a cop's face because you seriously thought this girl was your daughter for a second.
Yep. Yeah, and they do a very good job of showing that flashback to he remembers actively the scene where his daughter dies in the same sort of scenario, and that's what pushes him to basically murder this dude.
Yeah.
His former client, man. That's some shitty customer service, by the way.
Yeah. Well, you know what he should have done, though, is he should have checked to see if he had all those pills still on his pocket,
Just toss them on the ground. Yeah, the guy was clearly a tweaker. We see in the ad when they're doing the drug deal, his hands are twitching. You can tell he's jonesing for some drugs.
Yeah, right? He needs it. And he's you can tell that, there's that whole saying that, like, when you're going to get the drugs, you start actually getting high on your way there before you even take them, because your body starts to get that anxiety and you start getting the natural dopamines released. And that's how it was right there, dude. You could tell he was like in that moment when he was like making the transaction.
Yeah.
He was
But
like,
he's a tweaker, but he looked out for homeboy. He told Joel, he's like, hey, man, we're going after some fireflies. Keep your head low. Like, he was a tweaker, but I didn't get the sense this dude was a bad dude. Joel had to go do him like that.
yeah, I don't know. I think that I got the sense that maybe he was, but you know what? It was a dog eat dog situation.
Yeah. Yeah, they're living in a post-apocalyptic world, man. What are you going to do?
Yeah, sorry.
You know?
Sorry, creepo guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited
RIP.
about where the show's going to go, though, man. I really am. I think that they're, like Derby just said, they're barely scratching the surface with the characters. There's a ton of characters that we haven't even seen yet, that are influential or are significant. They're integral to the show. So there's a lot to bite into to this. So I'm happy they're starting it off with this such a good vibe.
RIP for Crippo Guard guy in the comments with an F.
Well, oh yeah.
Yeah, man. So it's funny. I got Clinto Darko not liking the time jump, and you not liking it too much for that particular instance inside the city. I actually kind of enjoyed it, but I know it's episode 1, so I enjoyed because I could see that was clearly building towards something, right?
Right. I just couldn't help but feel like when they're in the hall and there's a little bit of the showdown and everything, I know that was essential to happen and they needed that to happen for the story so they could do the transaction with Ellie and all that. But I couldn't help but feel like, oh, here's another episode of Walking Dead for a second.
The one thing I'm worried about in watching this is, are they going to try to translate the game over too much to where all those stupid side quests that they're throwing in the game, are they going to take it? Because those are good for a game, for you to kill time, not so much good for a plot, for you to move the story forward.
I will say the beauty about Last of Us. So Last of Us isn't an open world game. It's a linear. I mean, it gives you a playground in certain areas, but like you can't just keep. It's not like GTA or Breakpoint to where you just have this vast open world at your disposal. You have to go within the linear path of the game. So I mean, there are some side things to do to help your character remain on the upside of things, as a game, but it's much more of a story-based game. So I don't see them implementing any sort of side quests in there because there just wasn't anything like that to implement that wasn't really essential to the story. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and give our grades for episode 1. Even though it's really whack to grade these episode by episode, but we need clickbait. So grade for episode 1 on our scale.
I did not upload those things, man. I didn't know we were going to be grading this like this. I'm sorry. I didn't think we were grading.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
I thought we were just talking about it.
I honestly just thought about grading it.
Okay.
And we'll call this just unofficial grade for episode 1. We don't gotta be official.
Yeah. So I mean, you want to go first?
We reserve. I mean, listen. If the rest of these episodes are trash, this grade's gonna change, right? Go see our Willow review where we gave it some positive grades, and then we haven't even watched the rest of the episodes. This show just ended. Not only have we not talked about it, we haven't watched a single episode.
I will tell you this. I watched another episode, but I didn't watch any after that.
It was that bad, huh?
Yeah, dude. It's so CW. It's pathetic.
I could get that. Yeah.
The only good thing about it is, and why am I drawing a blank on what's his name that plays Willow? He's the only good thing because it's nostalgic. It's like you're watching Willow. For me, the character I grew up as a kid, but Willow, the movie is what made Willow cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not a good actor.
But again, that's the only reason I enjoy watching him on the screen is because of nostalgia.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, back to the grade. Go ahead and give you a grade.
I think the first episode, real fresh.
Yeah. As in a movie reel. I agree. Real fresh as well. I'm not going to give it a positive number grade yet because I think I want to wait till we get to see the whole season. How many episodes are we getting, by the way, before we move on?
I'm not sure. That's something we should have looked up. I thought it was a 10 episode deal, but we could do episodes, just the phrase grade, and then as a whole, give it the actual number.
Yeah. And listen, guys, hit us up on our Discord. I'm gonna go ahead and put that link, and you can drop us some grades. Also, hit that comment button below to comment. Hit that subscribe button, as we should have said at the top of this video, to subscribe for more content, and hit that notification bell up top to be notified when we drop more content. But let's go ahead and move on to the rest of the news. I'll drop that Discord and link it a little bit. But we do have a little bit of news to talk about. This is not a lot, so it's fine that we don't have much time to talk about. First of all, Chris and James together again. Just James Gunn kind of offhandedly saying that he could see him and Chris Pratt working together again. The cast are like fit in my family. I cannot tell you how close I am to Chris Pratt and Palm and Dave and Zoe and Karen. But I also know I will work again with all those people individually, probably at my other job. So doesn't really give us any positives that they'll be in DC movies soon, but leaves the door open. Could you see all these people reuniting for a DC property? And if so, what would you think that DC property is?
I don't want them to just jump ship and go play a DC character, because at that point now it's just like everybody's just playing dress up. I'm sorry, I don't mean to like be that way, and I don't think they look bad. They look amazing. But
well, we know Dave's not going to do it.
No, Dave. Well, I think Dave would do it if he could play a character like, and I'm just pulling this as an example, like a Constantine type, like a deep character. He would do that, but he's not going to do a tights and cape type character,
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, if I was Chris Pratt, who knows though? Tom Cruise, he loves the blockbuster feel. He'll tell you he likes being on big sets. Spielberg will tell you that I like making the big show. That's where I really enjoy myself. And I would think, though, a lot of these actors, most of them, at some point, they get not like tired, like, I'm so tired of that. They literally get exhausted from these big productions.
Sure, it's like anybody else. You want to try your hand doing something different. Here's the thing, though. I don't know if Chris Pratt's got that range. He can be funny. Him being action star was already pushing it. Remember, he was a fat guy in Community, right?
Parks and Rec.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, well... Yeah, but I also think a lot of that was for the character he was playing on Parks and Rec. Because if you saw him in shots before, now don't get me wrong, he never was like he was in the first Guardians movie. Like that was the first time in his life that he ever looked like that.
Well, he was in, what was that? Zero Dark 30. He was also pretty built in Zero Dark 30.
Wait, as much as he was in Guardians?
Yeah, because I remember this first time we saw a pic of him being.
Maybe, yeah. So maybe okay. I guess maybe I saw Zero Dark 30 after, or not after Guardians, but I guess I just don't remember him as much in that.
Yeah, he wasn't as well. Like I never watched Parks and Rec, so when I saw him in Zero Dark 30, it wouldn't have registered.
Got you. I think that James Gunn is a great director. I'm not going to say that everything he makes is gold, but I do love the guy. I want him to keep making movies, and I like him as a person. Mm-hmm. And I know as a filmmaker, his relationships with the people he's making movies with, and his tone of what the set is like as far as working environment, that is equally as important to him as making a good movie. Like the experience of life is just as important to him as the product he's making. You know what I mean? And I appreciate that. That's why the entire Guardians team went to bat for him when Disney was firing him. They all were like,
yeah, Dave Bautista really went to bat for him. By the way, I did read that article. I just read that Dave Bautista would like to play Bane. So maybe we do see him in some form or fashion in.
Well, honestly, I mean, visually, is there anybody else you would get to play in a Bane role?
No, but here's the thing that bothers me about Bane the character. Bane the character was originally an analog to Doc Savage. He's supposed to be very analytical as well as, like, he's supposed to be Batman's match throughout, right? Mentally, physically, and just more vicious. And his whole crew is based off Doc Savage's crew, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of you probably hear Doc Savage and ask yourselves who, and I would have done the same thing. I had to research who Doc Savage was, because this is an old pulp character from before even Bob was in his time, right? But that's kind of, he's kind of more from that into just being a very inconsistent character, depending on how you portray him. And sometimes they just portray him in Venom form, which is the crazy,
sometimes version. They portray him as a mindless monster, and then sometimes they portray him properly. Some of the best portrayals it's ever been of him has been in like the Arkham games.
Yeah, I agree.
But as far as like the way he was intended to be portrayed, but as far as like in Nolan's world, I mean, I think and for the Christopher Nolan Batman world, I think he did a pretty damn good job with Tom Hardy doing it.
Agreed.
As far as the equal physical match and the intellectual side of him, because Bane is a genius. That's part of why he can outsmart Batman. Yeah, so I could see, that's why I said physically with Dave Bautista, but I'm not sure.
Does he do a stupid voice though?
Right? Do we have him portraying a menacing person?
I'm Gotham's Reckoning.
Yeah, again, I don't know if anybody else could have made that work with Tom Hardy.
It would be hilarious if Batman snickered when he heard Bane's voice in that movie. If he was like,
and if Bane would have like sort of like made fun of and done a Batman or a Christian Bale Batman impersonation through the mask. Like,
I'm surprised. What's his face? Pete Holmes never did that in the. It's not Pete Holmes. The college humor buddies.
No, it was. It was.
Yeah.
All the bad man.
Yeah, bad man. There you go. Yeah.
Hilarious.
All right, let's move on to our next story. A Ghost remake. Now we're talking about Patrick Swayze's Ghost, which I don't think I ever saw, honestly, because when I was a kid, I'm not watching some romance movie about Demi Moore and some ghost. But it was a smash hit back in the day. And who owns the rights to it but Channing Tatum? Believe it or not.
Can you believe this? And
first of all, yeah, how does he get the rights to Ghost? I don't even know. He also said, we actually have the rights. We have the rights to Ghost, but we're going to do something different. Tatum added, noting that the 1990 original contains problematic stereotypes. I think it needs to change a little bit at our ... This quote is from Variety. It doesn't really say what follows the ellipses there.
I don't remember the problematic stereotypes.
I don't either. It's, unless the heterosexual relationship is a problematic stereotype. There you go, Red Pill YouTube. You know, chew on that.
Yeah. Now, look, I guess for young, if you're going to remake a ghost movie, you have to do it with a star. And for young, sexy, whatever guys out there, that's not the best picture of Channing Tatum, by the way. But I mean, I guess that's the best match for Patrick Swayze. I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal would have been maybe another.
Sure. Yeah, I guess. I mean, the world really need a ghost remake, though. And also, is a problematic relationship boinking a ghost? Because if so,
then
really offended.
Yeah, I was about to say that I'm
like, are the ghosts going to cancel you on Twitter?
I have a weekly date with a ghost.
Yeah.
Midnight session with a ghost.
I get ghosted a lot. Does that count?
I'm the king of ghosted.
Yeah. Yeah, I do some ghosting as well. I Casper some people and some people Casper me. But other than that, I don't know. Well, maybe we can figure out, guys. If you remember the movie, if you watch the movie, tell us what's problematic about it, because I'm not going to go back and watch it.
I don't remember any. I mean, is it because they made Whoopi Goldberg like involved with like a voodoo type thing? Is that what it was? Is it the voodoo? Because that's ultimately what it is. It's like a voodoo curse thing involved, and I don't know if you remember that, but.
No, I don't remember it. I mean, like I said,
there are sort of creepy moments of the movie. It's not just a love story. There are moments where some dudes, get killed in a wacky way, and they're, either you become a ghost if you're a good person, but if you're not a good person, if you're a bad person, you get pulled down to hell, and you're, and that's kind of creepy. And I remember that as a kid, just being like, oh shit. Yeah,
listen, the only thing I remember about ghost movies, I remember having to watch a Bollywood or maybe Tollywood remake of Ghost with my parents. So that's the only thing I remember out of the movie. And obviously that movie took some liberties, I'm assuming, right? So
I want to see that one big time.
Yeah, I don't remember anything about that movie, but I don't know. Well, we'll see. I doubt it gets made because I don't know if Channing Tatum's got the same pull that he used to have.
Well, he's making Magic Mike 3 with Salma Hayek.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. I think you guys will like this story. Rebel Girl, she wants more. So, Zack Snyder, the Twitter's favorite director, Zack Snyder. Twitter has crowned this guy director of the millennium, apparently, because they love this dude. He's directing Star Wars. I mean, sorry, not Star Wars. Rebel Moon. I make fun, but it's not like Star Wars was the most original idea, right? Star Wars stole a lot from the early serials and Buck Rogers.
Yeah, they just took horses and cowboys and made them spacemen and hover bikes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they borrowed a lot. Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon also last time the Jets had a W. Flash Gordon. Apparently, Jets starting quarterback, so they've got that going for them. But yeah,
Awesome.
I wonder if we'll ever get another Flash Gordon. By the way,
I hope not. Good. Look, just because you can, don't mean you should. And it's like the Ghost thing in remakes. I mean, they remade Sabrina, and that was an old love classic. That do you need to remake it? Some things just don't.
Sabrina was cool at the beginning, but that writer that writes Riverdale, he's way too into appeasing Twitter, right? And yeah, it became way too much about
No, I was talking
toxic
about
masculinity.
the old movie that got remade into another movie back in the early 2000s. Yeah, it was with Harrison Ford. It was in the remake. Anyways, it was like when they made those old Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant old school movies. They remade them in the late 90s and stuff like that, or when they remade Arthur. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff.
Remaking Arthur was a bad choice, and then the Sabrina TV show started out strong, and then it faded into obscurity and got canceled. And so, but yeah, Rebel Moon, the still shots seem cool, but that's Zack Snyder's a great visual filmmaker. Like he's always got great set designs, great character designs, cool looking stills.
I think when he has people, and look, I do love you, Zach. I love a lot of what you do. I just think sometimes. I think that to make a really awesome movie, you need a team of people, not just because you need a lot of people contributing, but you also need a team of people to sort of keep you grounded. And I don't mean getting the studio involved, but sometimes Taika Waititi with Thor: Love and Thunder, if you just give him all the freedom, he's going to go a little off the handle. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think Zack Snyder could be the same way.
Kevin Smith's a good example because you give him all the freedom, he's going to write something that sucks.
Yeah. Hey, look, I haven't seen Clerks 3. I love you, Kevin, but I hadn't seen Clerks 3.
Look, Kevin Smith, all you are is good for a name. Okay, you need to hire other people to do everything else, everything else. Bobo needs to direct. We'll need to get some good writers. We'll need to get some people to edit the content, whatever. You just stick your name on there and do your Fat Man podcast where you talk bullshit about comics.
Fat Man Beyond.
Yeah, whatever. Stupid ass. He's not even fat anymore. You can't even get that right.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, he's not. He's not.
He got a thumb stomach. That's because he really got kicked off that Southwest Airlines plane.
No, did you hear what happened? No, he actually had a heart attack.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he had a massive heart attack, and that's why they ended up getting the whole stomach staple thing.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That's why he lost the weight.
I thought it was because Southwest Airlines was like, "Hey, fat ass, get out of our plane."
Oh, well, look, my mom had to actually deal with that because
really?
My mom's the vice president of in-flight.
Yeah, I know.
She didn't have to talk to him personally, but she's the person that had to make sure he was compensated properly and all this stuff. And
I bet you, because he knows, that's why he does all these jobs, because he knows he's just one bad film away from everybody realizing he's just a grifter and not getting another paycheck. So I'm sure he wanted a lot of compensation.
Well, I don't want to go there, but you know me. Well, you know where I don't mind talking any trash about is this guy right here.
Yeah, Bob's Make and Bake. We did skip a story. We'll come back to it though, because that's just a still shot. Bob Chapek. So here's the thing, guys. I work for a lot of big Fortune 500 companies. I got laid off from all of them because things that were not in my control. Other people, other executives screwing stuff up and leading to massive layoffs. I got one good severance. I never got a severance like this though. I never got to make $21.4 million and then get booted. And that's not even a severance. That's just what he was paid. I guarantee you he got a couple of cool mil as a severance as well.
Oh, to breach. Yeah, they breached the contract with him, so they had to. But it was just do we just go ahead and pay him out or keep letting him make us lose money?
Yeah. For them, it was a move in the positive direction. But if any of you felt sorry for Bob, and I doubt any of you did, but if you did, you don't have to because he's still a millionaire at the end of the day. And
he's going to get hired somewhere else.
Only in corporate, first of all, you're right. He's getting hired somewhere else. And only in corporate America can you get fired for millions of dollars.
Right.
Good Lord.
No kidding. Okay. And I'm not sure what Bob Iger's going to do with the future, but I am more confident in him than I was very leery about Chapek.
Yeah. We also got a couple of cool still shots over the weekend of our boy Adam Warlock looking jacked. Will Coulter.
Yeah, no, he's gonna be good, man. I've seen some pictures. There's some other shots I saw of him online, actually in the gym, and yeah, dude, he's putting it on.
Yeah, man, he got all the good steroids for this role.
And I got to say, man, I would have never.
That's actually his real skin color now because of all the steroids he's taking.
Yeah, he's just gold.
Yeah,
He's just platinum gold.
yeah.
Back when I first started seeing him, I would have never expected him to rise to the fame that he has. Not that I don't think that he's good, because I do. Just there's some people sometimes you don't expect them to just go the way they go, but a lot of that has to do with their work ethic and how they perform and how they show up. And
Well, he's got that look that Hollywood's gonna always love, right?
Yeah.
And so when he was able to pack on the muscle, I wouldn't be surprised if the dude plays He-Man. If they ever do that movie, which, by the way, they will never do that movie. I think we can safely say at this point, as many times that movie started and stopped, that Masters of the Universe is never going to be made into a movie.
They've been
saying made into a shitty Kevin Smith anime.
They've been saying they're going to make a Masters of the Universe movie longer than they've been saying they were going to make a Black Adam movie.
But dude, I gotta force you to watch I gotta force you to watch Masters of the Universe by Kevin Smith, even though it sucks. Because I want you to hate this man as much as I do, and I guarantee you, after you finish that, you will hate him as much as I hate him. I
like certain things of Kevin Smith in his past. I'm not saying that I'm loving everything he's doing moving forward, but
I just, dude, drop in our comments below if you want him to watch that, because I really feel like after you watch that, you will be like, F you, Kevin Smith, I'm done with you.
Hey, well, look,
here's the thing about it is the dialogue's so bad you can fast forward through parts of a lot of it.
Because I make a mistake in life, I don't want people to discredit other things they liked about me prior.
No, but here's the thing: after you watch that, you'll look back at other movies and realize, man, this guy had me conned all along, and you'll discredit all the things he did prior. I think he does a good job doing that himself.
Man, Anshul is really wanting me to join this cult of his.
Well, you know what? There's only one way to figure out if you will or won't, is to watch and form your own opinion. You can disagree with me. You might watch it and think it's the greatest thing ever and come back and totally disagree with me. You like Aquaman, for crying out loud.
Oh, I do. I love me some Aquaman.
I think that's a video that needs to happen. Even though Bobo hates animation and doesn't want to watch it, which I think is unfortunate.
He likes saying that. He loves saying that.
I do also want you to watch Death Note, because that's more psychological, right? Death Note's very different in that it's all about a psychological game played between two people. So maybe you can look past the animation for that. But yeah, I really want you to watch Masters of the Universe above all, just so you can see how bad it was. You know?
Yeah, I mean, nothing like watching a show because someone says how bad it is.
Yeah. Speaking of a new show that's coming out, we got the New World Order. Captain America versus Hollywood Hulk Hogan in the NWO.
Yes. And look, I wonder if he's going to have blonde hair, but still a black goatee. Hollywood Hogan.
We're going to have the Outsiders, Kevin Nash. Scott Hall, RIP, will be in some form or fashion.
Kevin Nash, baby. I hadn't heard his name in a long time.
Yeah, I'm really curious as to why they decided to go Captain America versus wrestling. But no, to be real with you guys, the name of the new Captain America series is out. It's called New World Order. No further details as far as I know. Of course, Captain America will be starring our former Falcon turned Captain America.
Now, let me stop real fast. I thought that this was a movie.
Yeah. Did I say show? I apologize.
Yeah. No, that's good. I just wanted to make sure I was right.
Yeah, I think it's a movie.
Yeah, I think it is as well. Now, do we think Bucky's going to be in this?
Those guys are great. They have great chemistry. Individually, I don't care for them either way. But when they're together, I told my old co-host this before he went and rewatched Civil War. I told him, I was like, man, I'm excited for the show coming out when they were doing the last show, because they had good chemistry, and he wasn't feeling it. But then he went and rewatched Civil War, and he was like, yeah, you're right. They do have great chemistry on screen.
No, they do for sure. And hey, look, Fresh is a movie on Hulu with Sebastian Stan in it, and it's kind of a horror film. It's really good and has a little bit of a comedy element to it, but he's awesome in that. He's
a good actor.
Yeah.
So is Anthony Mackie, even though I didn't like the.
But you might find like more of a likability to the Sebastian Stan person, because he just sort of lets himself go.
Well, I liked Winter Soldier and Captain America and the Winter Soldier, but ever since then, it's just, I haven't hated him, but I haven't really found any reason to care about Winter Soldier, and with the exception of his interactions with Falcon, right? They were great as a comedic duo together. But that
you're talking about the characters in general.
Yeah, Anthony Mackie, although I didn't like his season of Altered Carbon, but I think that was more to do with crappy show running and crappy writing than anything.
Yeah, and I think that's also them being like, okay, well, we only actually had one season planned.
Yeah, also, Can we cast an Asian as an Asian in these shows? I'm so sick of this. First,
They Netflix, man, they're all over the place.
yeah, but yeah, I'm interested to see how the show does. Looks like we got another comment coming up, and I'm interested to hear some more details. Welcome, Asmaniac. You're here at the very
What's
end.
up, man? At the end, we're about to peace out. But that's
yeah,
okay.
but you know what? Hey, thank you for joining anyway.
Yeah,
Even though I found out you're from England and you
bastard.
suppressed my people in the past, but
Yeah, welcome, Anshul. That's
Yeah?
Maniac Anshul.
yeah. We'll bond over some chicken tikka and it'll be all good. All right, man. Well, that's all I got. I know there's been some other news popping. I know there was a Netflix series that
We'll get to it. We'll get to the other stuff on Friday.
Yeah. See, he loves chicken tikka. He's laughing. I'm sure he loves chicken tikka. It's a national dish. That's right, Until Forever. And you know what? Down with Kevin Smith as Maniac. I know you're not feeling me on that, but yeah, as Maniac, I want you to go watch that Masters of the Universe that he did along with Bobo. That's you guys' homework assignment, so you guys can also turn on Kevin Smith like I have.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Anshul or if as Maniac has any sort of attachment to Kevin Smith at all. Like
I thought he defended him once when I went off on him, but
maybe he did. I don't know if that was him or not, though. I feel like it was somebody else. Maybe not. I think it was. No, but Peter hates Kevin Smith too, so never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, look
Animation
at that.
is for kids. Look at that. That's what Bobo says.
Hey, I've been secretly texting him over here. No, I haven't.
Yeah. Don't let Guillermo del Toro hear you as Maniac. He'll lecture you like he did Bobo when he accepted his Golden Globes.
I love animation. I do. I do.
It's just not real art. According to
that's just for everyone to know. That's not what I said. But hey, look, we got to go though, guys. That's gonna be for the show today.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining us. We'll come back with more news. We're going to try to do a stream on Friday. We are still trying to do this Patreon. Bobo, what do you think? Should we try to do it this Saturday?
What is this Saturday? The 21st, 22nd?
Yeah, we will be going against NFL football, so maybe not a good idea to do it this Saturday. I know there's no games I'm going to be watching, but there might not be a lot of people that are interested in streams on this Saturday.
Well, no, but we can just do it as an extra view, though. You know, we can record it, and if we can, we'll try to get together this Saturday and do it. It's hard for me to say, to be honest with you, because my schedule is I got so much going on.
So if you wonder what we're talking about, patreon.com/BrassReel as listed below. I'm also about to throw up the Discord channel link here in just a second. So give me a second to do that.
But yeah, we're just talking about making like some other videos to put up on the Patreon.
That's right. $3 a month, guys. You're just doing it for support. You're going to help us try to build up this channel with your support, and we'll try to throw an extra video and more content at you. We're really going to try to make, once we get to it, we're going to try to make the $3 tier worth your while. We're not going to have it at $3 forever, hopefully, right? Hopefully we get bigger. Yes. But if you join for $3, you'll be locked into that $3 tier into perpetuity, right?
Yeah.
I've also put up a Discord server link. So we'll be on Discord as well, trying to get a community build up so we can all talk movies. I'll give us some good ideas for some streams in the future. So if you've got some ideas that you think, hey, listen, I'd love to hear you guys talk about. I know Jerpy's been messaging us with some ideas. Love to hear it. We'll maybe do some future videos on it. You never know, right? Give us some good content. It'll be content for you, by you. It's even better, right? So help us get on the ground floor of this. You can also check us out at facebook.com/BrassReel, at Shogun of Cinema on Twitter and Instagram. And until then, if life gives you lemons,
make some hot, fresh popcorn.
We out.
Peace.